Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this cray world we live in this crazy world we live in. And you remember that song by, was it Gene Pitney, What a Difference a Day Makes? It's not even been a day, has it? I was on live this morning and I was talking about the videos that had been released of the shooter of Charlie Kirk, the sniper up on the roof that murdered him or assassinated him. It's funny, isn't it? It feels like an assassination, doesn't it? That's how it feels. Anyway, we were talking about it this morning. Of course, the police had released the videos of him arriving at the campus, of him leaving the campus, running along the roof, jumping down, etc. There were images that we were talking about. And, within a couple of hours of that, of course, America woke up and there was good old Donald Trump, there on Fox News announcing, that the shooter had been apprehended. And, there's a lot of debate about this because the shooter was actually apprehended at 10 o'clock the evening before. And this is the shooter. Let's have a look at him. So, it was left to Trump, given to Trump to give the sort of kudos, if you like, of announcing that he'd been caught instead of it being announced that he'd been caught immediately. But, whatever. So he's a young lad. Very young lad, 22 years old, Tyler Robinson, and he's from a Republican background. So this is something else that I want, I think what we need to, there's a lot of things we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to look at the press conference and I'm going to comment on it just to let you know that if you don't want to see me commenting on the press conference, you can watch the press conference. It's available openly on social media. You can watch it and just make your own thoughts, but we're going to watch it together. I'm going to comment on it and I'm sure my chatters are going to comment on it. There's a lot of very interesting things in that press conference, I think. Anyway, so this is him. This is the guy, just such a young 22-year-old lad from as I say, a Republican background. Do the more I think about this, I think a lot of people, like on the right, if you like, I don't like these labels, but a lot of people on the right, they're so keen to sort of blame lefties for everything, the Democrats for everything. I think maybe they don't realise that there's actually a lot of people in the Republican Party that are not happy with extreme right-wing views. Now, I'm not saying Charlie Kirk had extreme right-wing views. He had his views. And most of Charlie's views, from what I can see, and I've watched a lot now of his, of the sort of debates that he's had with students, they come from the Bible. He's a very religious man. You can see that. And he quotes the scriptures to explain most of his opinions, which is fair enough. He's entitled to do that. And don't get me wrong, I'm incensed with what's happened to Charlie. It's terrible to shoot someone over their political beliefs, whoever they are. But what I'm trying to say is this is not some loony left person, or as they like to refer to people on the left. This is a guy from a Republican background. A lot of Republicans are not happy or were not happy, young people were not happy with Charlie's views. And I'm not saying that's an excuse to shoot him. Of course it isn't. But what I'm trying to say, it's not only the left. And when we come to the press conference, you'll see the governor of Utah, who I really like. Why can't he be the president? You know what? Donald Trump, he's got to go. Apart from the fact he's far too old. He's not condemning violence. He doesn't condemn violence when it's against Democrats. You know, when Nancy Pelosi and her husband were, when her husband was seriously ill after being attacked and everything, he just seemed to think it was quite funny. He's made jokes about Joe Biden having cancer and his senile dementia, possible senile dementia. But, he's not far off Joe Biden's age. Need some young people, younger people in charge in the White House. And Donald Trump, as long as Donald Trump is president, America's reputation is always going to be bad unless he changes his tack completely. That's my opinion. And I know there'll be lots of you out there maybe that are Donald Trump supporters. You could be a Republican and not be a Donald Trump supporter, What has he done to sort of calm things down? Absolutely nothing. And then listening to this governor talking in the press conference, he's saying the things that the president should be saying. He's saying the things the president should be saying, in my opinion, again. So don't forget, you can give your opinion as long as you're respectful to me and the other chatters, but you're entitled to your opinion. We're all in, but you have to understand everyone's entitled to their opinion on my channel. Okay, so he's from a Republican background, 22 years old. He had engraved fascist, anti-fascist words on the casings, on the ammunition that he was using. He really did not like Charlie Kirk. He thought he was a fascist, or his views were fascist. And, it's awful what he did, because the thing is, whatever you think of Charlie Kirk or not, what we have to remember, Charlie Kirk was murdered in front of his wife and his 2 children as well. I mean, that's disgusting, isn't it? To do that. But the other thing, I want to put out some prayers for Charlie's family, of course. It would be just unbearable what they're going through. But also, I want to say some words about the shooter's family, because, of course, it turns out that it was actually his own father who turned him in the end. And that would have been difficult, wouldn't it? Because at the end of the day, it is his son. But he did the right thing, and he turned him in, and he confessed to what he'd done, and that's the right thing to do. And maybe his father can't stand Charlie Kirk. Maybe he thinks he's got fascist views. It seems like in their household, they had discussed Charlie Kirk and his views. And, Charlie's, as I say, I've watched quite a lot of his debates now, and there are some things, and I think, oh, yeah, this is what I mean. Life is not so clear as that's left and that's right. There are things that Charlie Kirk says that I'll listen to what he says, and I think, oh, no, I agree with that. And then there's other things I think, ooh, that's not right, to generalize like that. Anyway, we're going to talk about that as we go along. The other thing I want to say is, thank God it wasn't an immigrant. Now all the over the last, literally, it's only been a few days, it feels like months. We've had that horrible murder of Irina on the train by an American. He may have had drug problems, he may have had mental health problems, but he's an American citizen. And now we've got this, and this is an American citizen that's done it. He probably comes from a sort of real suburban sort of, average middle class sort of family. He's not an immigrant. Stop blaming immigrants for everything. Immigrants do bad things. Some immigrants do. There's a percentage of everyone does bad things. It's like saying, oh, you hear that an Irish person has, murdered someone, that all Irish people are murderers. Come on. Take people as they are. Not all immigrants are murderers. Some are. Of course they are. Now, and of course Irina, she was an immigrant herself. murdered by an American. So, we have to get these things in perspective. And most of this, and of course, the Colorado, the school shooting that happened on the same day, that's been practically forgotten, hasn't it? I need to look at that maybe tomorrow, because all the thing about Charlie Kirk, because Donald Trump likes to use it for his own purposes. Donald Trump uses anything he can for his own purposes. I personally don't think he cares that much about Charlie Kirk, really. It's all about what political capital he can make out of it. It's very scary, that. And in my opinion, Donald Trump needs to go. Get another Republican in, but get a decent one in. Do like the governor who speaks in this press conference, and we'll see that, and you'll see why. Because he's trying to calm the troubled waters, and listen out for the clues that he's not a big fan of Donald Trump either. You just, some of the things he says, he's supportive of Donald Trump, but I'm going to point them out as we go along. I thought, yeah, he's not as supportive as he says he is. Just because you're a Republican doesn't mean to say you have to think that Donald Trump is brilliant. But Donald Trump is the president, so he gets respect just for that. He's been voted in at the end of the day, and it sticks in the throat in a way, but that's what's happened. But of course, Donald Trump wasn't the same when Joe Biden was voted in, was he? It was like, everything's democracy when it's in his favour, but when it's not in his favour, it's not democracy anymore. It's fake election, isn't it? Fake election, fake news, fake everything. Donald Trump has damaged America so much. He really has. I'm sorry, but he has. And the one thing that I hoped that he would do when he became president, he kept saying, oh, there wouldn't be a war if it were, it wouldn't be wars if it wasn't for me. He hasn't managed to stop the war in Ukraine that he said he would stop within 2 or 3 days. The war in Palestine is still raging on. Nobody cares what he says. He's not as America is not as powerful as it used to be. And he's there saying, oh, yeah, there never would have been a war. And I was hoping that he would at least stop the war in Ukraine, even though, he's not a person whose political views I agree with. One thing I thought that he might do is, stop war. But he hasn't managed to do it, has he? So he hasn't what has he come through with? The only thing he's come through with is making immigrants' life a misery and blaming everything on them, treating them cruelly, and, treating them cruelly, and just, it's horrible. Could you imagine? I think what I'd like to say to people, just for 1 minute, who don't agree with it, just for 1 minute, imagine what that's like. People's families ripped apart and everything. It's not right. It's not right. And to preach Christianity, talk about Jesus and this, that, and the other, and then in the same breath, you're being so horrible. Even the Pope has come out and said about it, because the Pope, of course, was an immigrant, wasn't he? This is what, he's even come out and spoke against it. So if you really do believe in God and Jesus and all the scriptures and this, that, and the other, you should not agree with what's happening about immigration in America. Okay, sorry, that's me having a little rant. You may not agree with me, that's fine. Say it in comments. Just don't, call me names or say horrible things. Just put your opinions, that's fine. Okay, now I don't know where to start with this, because there's so much to talk about, isn't there? Because, I don't know why it seemed, he's 7 foot, over 7 foot tall, this lad. How did he not get noticed wandering around? You wouldn't notice a 7 foot tall lad. And the other thing I want to say is, he was not caught by the police. He's only been caught because his dad dobbed him in. He's not been caught by the police or the FBI or whatever. The governor starts off the press conference by saying, we got him. Well, they didn't get him. His poor father, and honestly, my heart goes out to his father, because he made the right decision, but that would have been a hard thing to do, wouldn't it? Because that boy is going to prison forever. If he did, well, Donald Trump wants him to have the death penalty. So, he's either going to get the death penalty or he's going to prison for the rest of his life. So that's 2 lives ruined. Charlie's deceased, And now this boy, his life is ruined and his family's been torn asunder as well. So, you know, it is a real tragedy on all levels, isn't it? Right. Okay, so I'm going to say my thank yous now. I know I'm waffling on. I like a waffle, as you know. If you don't know me, my name's Vicky Marie. I was born in the UK, but I now live in Spain. I'm a citizen of the world. I don't really like identifying with different countries. I am British at the end of the day, but I'm British European, I suppose. But you know, I identify with humanity. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. You know, we're all people and we're all walking this life, not knowing what the hell we're doing, most of us. Nobody, you know, it's like Charlie seemed to have it all together. He seemed like really convinced of where he was going and what he's doing, and I envy him for that. 31 years old and very sort of certain of his path in life. Most of us are just wandering around aimlessly thinking what the hell is going on and where did all the years go to. You know, that's life is hard for everybody, isn't it? There's many things that are difficult in life. So I look on myself as a citizen of the world. I try and be fair with my commentary. You know, Donald Trump drives me crazy. I've tried to be fair about him, but you know, I find it quite difficult because I feel like Donald Trump now has got an opportunity to pour oil on troubled waters, and he's not doing it. Do you know what I mean? The governor does it, as you'll see in the press conference, but Donald doesn't seem capable of that. But anyway, I'll speak my truth, and people will either agree with me or they won't agree with me. That's fine. I just speak as I find. I'm not trying to, you know, win friends or get subscribers or whatever. People will watch me if they want to, or they won't watch me if they want to, and that's their choice. I'm a tiny little YouTube channel in millions of YouTube channels that anybody can watch any channel. It's not, you know, you don't get sort of tied down and forced to watch my channel. It's a choice, and if you don't want to watch it, that's fine. But I hope you will. Having said that, I hope you will. So I want to say thank you to those of you who do watch it. Thank you to those of you who subscribe, especially. Don't forget to subscribe, to press like, to share. Thank you to all of you who do that on a regular basis. I want to say a special thank you to my members. They are the mainstay of my channel. Thank you so much. Every Thursday we have a special exclusive members live stream. So why not consider becoming a member if you like a bit of waffle and a bit of chat. You know, the members lives are a little bit more, casual. You know, we talk about all sorts of things. Last night we talked about ghost stories and I waffled on about some things, and people waffled on about in the chat about things, you know. So yeah, why not become a member for an exclusive members live every Thursday evening. What else? Thank you to those of you who PayPal me or buy Ko-fis or send super stickers. Thank you so much. And now I'm going to say hello to my lovely lurkers, who are the people that like to watch but don't like to join in the chat. Hi to my loathsome lurkers, who are like the people who say they don't like me but they still keep on watching. Hi. I'm going to say hello to replay crew. Thank you for watching on replay. And now I'm going to go into the chat and say hello to the people who are brave enough to venture into the chat. So let me take this banner off. There's a lot of chat in there. Let's have a look. Oh gosh, it's a long way up. So you're all chatting away, which is great. Hi Annie. My toe is not good. I mean, you know, I'm alive, Annie. I'm alive. Hi Tracy. Hi David. Sorry, all the chat. Hi, Fluffy. Hi, Lily. If I miss anyone going down, just remind me, because sometimes I do miss people. Hi, Geordie. Hi, Angel. Hi, Princess. Yeah, actually, it's important what you say, because you know, in this morning's live, some people said, "Oh, it's this media influencer, weren't they?" And so, you know, just shows you cannot jump the gun. You know, you cannot just presume that somebody's guilty. This is the problem. This is a problem of social media. You know, people will say, "Oh, yeah, it's such and such," or, you know, wait for official confirmation. It's not the guy we looked at earlier. Hi, Yvonne. Sorry, I feel, oh, I'm going dizzy going down all this chat. God, you have been chatting a lot. Which I will get to the bottom of it in a minute, but I think most of it is chat rather than new. Yes, 7 foot tall. People like the waffle, I know. People like the waffle. Hi, Jim. Hi, Jim. Hello, Jim. Do you mean I'm talking crap? What crap are you talking about? Well, never mind. Ah, Jim, he disappears and then he reappears. Okay, so let's get going. Where are we going to start? Now, first thing I want to do actually is tell you about this Spencer Cox, a little bit about Spencer Cox, who's the governor of Utah since 2021. He's Republican, but I really like him. He's like, I mean, you know, it's not that I don't like Republicans or whatever. I don't have an opinion. You know, to me, I take people, I don't care what their political persuasion is. I either like them or I don't like them. I might like them, you know, if they're Republican. I might like them if they're screaming, raving loony party. Or, you know, it doesn't matter. I take them as I find them, the way they talk, the things they say. So he's going to come up in the press conference. Spencer Cox, who's the governor of Utah. He's Utah's 18th governor. And he served as the 2023-24 chairman of the National Governors Association. So we will be talking about him. Oh, there's a couple of pictures I want to show you as well. I have a photo here. So, of course, this is a suspect, yeah? Well, suspect, it's definitely him. Tyler Robinson. This is his house. One of these cars is his car that he drove. Because although he's in Utah, he's in Washington. Another Washington. You know how I get confused about all these different places in America with the same name, but it's not like Washington, D.C. It's a different Washington. It's in Utah, but it's right on the outskirts, I believe. And that's where he lives. And he drove there from his house and drove back there. And then apparently confessed to a family member. So this is him with the family. You know, some of the faces have been blocked out, but this is his dad. You've got to think what that family are going through. I really feel sorry for them. I do, because his actions are not their fault. But of course, this is the family to really feel sorry for, because this is Charlie's family. His wife, the two girls. Is it two girls or is it a boy and a girl? I think it's a boy and a girl, actually. And, they've been left without a dad. She's been left a very young widow. And it's not good, is it? None of it's good. So it's all very sad. All these families destroyed. It's awful. Hang on, let me do 1 second. I need to turn that down. Hang on 1 sec. So where am I going next? Going to put that window down. Going to put that window down. Right, so we're going to have a look at the press conference.
Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, FBI Special Agent in Charge Robert Bowles, and local and federal law enforcement partners. Following the remarks today, Governor Cox, Director Patel, and Commissioner Mason will take questions. Thank you.
So this is the governor that I was talking about, Spencer Cox. I wish he was president instead of Donald Trump, that's for sure, because he's a Republican, but he just seems to be such a much nicer person. But anyway, that's what America needs. And do you know what? Donald Trump is too old. Biden was too old. America deserves younger politicians. Okay, they're not going to be 21 or whatever, but in their 50s, 60s, even 70s, early 70s, and not late 70s like Trump. But to be honest, no, I think they should be in their 50s or 60s. There should be a cut-off point where he can't be president, which maybe is 70 years old. And that's my opinion, because they're too old. What does Donald, and also with someone like Donald Trump, what does he really know about normal life? He's never led a normal life. He doesn't know what struggles people go through. He ain't got a bloody clue. He's never had to worry about paying his electricity bill. He's never had to worry about buying food or nappies or diapers, of course. So, he's never had to worry about any of that. So what does he know about what normal Americans are going through? But normal Americans seem to think he's bloody brilliant. I have no idea why.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at Utah Valley University. This information was also conveyed to the FBI. Investigators reviewed additional...
Now, what do you think will happen to the reward money? Do you think that his dad will get this reward money? I can't see that happening. Can you? Who will get the reward money? People, they did not catch this guy. The reason the guy's been caught is because the family dobbed him in. Now, so what's going to happen to the reward money, I wonder?
Video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th, in which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes. When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th, in the early morning hours, Robinson was observed in consistent clothing with those surveillance images. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member...
Now, it's important to remember that a lot of people, young people, older people, didn't like Charlie Kirk and his views. You know, that's part and parcel of being. I mean, to be fair, Charlie Kirk wasn't a politician. You know, he actually wasn't a politician. He hadn't been elected to any office or whatever. He was a young conservative, if you like, who set up the Turning Point organisation. But he wasn't a politician. That maybe in the future he would have gone into politics. But this current time, when he was unfortunately shot, he is not a politician at all. So, you know, but he's well known, or he was well known in America. I mean, I didn't know anything about him, to be perfectly honest. But that's probably because I'm not right wing. But, you know, maybe if I was more right wing, but it'd be like, do you think people in America know about Tommy Robinson, or who's a left wing equivalent to Tommy Robinson? Have we even got one? I don't know if there is one. I can't think of a left wing equivalent to Tommy Robinson. Have we got left wing activists in the UK? I'm sure somebody who's living in the UK might know. You know, and I don't know if there's an equivalent to Charlie on the left wing in America. Is there anybody similar to him who goes around debating or whatever? I don't think there is. I don't know. Anyway, I'd never heard of him, to be perfectly honest. I've never heard of him. He's big on social media. He's big in religious circles. He's big with the youth. Not only the conservative movement, but the left-wing movement, because, you know, his views were contentious. But he always said what he thought. You know, his views, he was honest in his thoughts. And everyone has their right to express their views. But I forgot why I started saying this now. I feel like I've gone off waffling. Oh, but yeah, so you can imagine in that Republican household that this suspect comes from, they sat there one day discussing Charlie Kirk. And just because they're Republicans doesn't mean to say that they may disagree with his extreme, to them, extreme views. So I think we have to remember that, you know, we can't just keep, it's the loony left that have done it. This boy is from a Republican background, not a loony left background.
Also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. Investigators identified an individual as the roommate of Robinson. Investigators interviewed that roommate, who stated that his roommate, referring to Robinson, made a joke on Discord. Investigators asked if he would show them the messages on Discord. He opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages.
Now, you know, the police have said they're not looking for anyone else in connect, but am I reading this right or listening to this right? That on Discord, good old Discord, he was actually talking about rifles and things, and his roommate didn't feel that he had to go to the police. You know, I'm just thinking if our Discord, you know, I have a Discord for my channel, don't I? And, you know, you all go on there and have a chat, the people that are part of the Discord. So if somebody was on there, like, or messaging me or saying, oh yeah, I'm going to leave this rifle such and such a place, or pick up this rifle, I think, you know, wouldn't that ring a few alarm bells in your head? I don't know. Yeah, or am I reading this wrong? This is how it feels to me, that he's saying that they were discussing a rifle.
Related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfits.
So
I know there's been
knew.
speculation as well as to the writing.
But did somebody know what was going on? Or maybe his friend or his roommate or whoever it was. Maybe they just didn't take it seriously. But it sounds to me from what he's saying, he was talking to someone about it.
On those casings, those bullet casings, and I believe we have that as well. And I will share that with you now. So the area north of Campus Drive Road where the suspect crossed over, you saw some of that in the video that we released last night, consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings.
Now that's strange as well, because he just left the rifle wrapped in a towel. Is it because he was worried he might get stopped in his car and have the rifle in the car? I mean, surely he could have found a better place to leave it. 'Cause he had a car, he had transport. Could he not have driven to, I'm not giving him giving suggestions, but you just think, well, wouldn't you drive to a lake or something and chuck it in a lake? Would you just leave it in a towel in a wooded area for the police to find? Just struck me as a bit strange, that.
Found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices bulges, capital OWO, what's this, question mark." Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point." Up arrow symbol, right.
Yeah, so it even, engraved on this ammunition, "Hey fascist, catch." Gosh, I mean, that's even more extreme, isn't it? To go to the trouble of doing that. So he'd planned this, hadn't he? He'd planned it. It's not like just something he decided on the spur of the moment he was going to do. He was planning it, of course.
Arrow and symbol and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow, Chow." And
now, that Bella Ciao, etc., that's an anti-fascist, just in case you don't know. Bella Ciao, let's just have a look at this. What is Bella Ciao? The meaning of the Italian phrase written on alleged Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson's bullets. And one of the phrases scrawled on a bullet case belonging to alleged Charlie Kirk assassin is an Italian anti-fascist phrase dating back to World War II. So, of course, the fascists, Mussolini, they were he was the guy in charge, wasn't he, during World War II, until, of course, the end of it. Oh, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao. So that's hello, gorgeous, isn't it? Bella is beautiful, isn't it? And ciao is hello in Italian, I think. If anyone knows any better what it means, let me know. So that apparently was written on an unfired casing. And the slogan is the title of an anti-fascist song popularised during the Second World War by left-wing Italian partisans resisting Nazi Germany and Benito Mussolini's regime. And singing that song is a hallmark of Liberation Day in Italy, which is celebrated every April the 25th. Oh, so that's the gun as it was found, like just all in one piece like that, apparently. So, yeah, that's where that one comes from anyway. But hang on, got to find the... Oh, I've lost the... What have I done with the interview? Ah, there it is. If you read this, you are gay. LMAO. Now, I don't know if Tyler was gay or, you know, you don't have to be gay. Maybe he was just sympathetic. to, diversity. Definitely Charlie Kirk was anti all that. It was all an aberration in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of God, wasn't it, to be homosexual or LGBT and all that. And he was very down on trans people, and that definitely was. Basically, the more I look at Charlie's debates, everything he bases on scripture in the Bible, but he twists it in a way, like women are subordinate. They are subordinate. There's two ways about it. Or not subordinate, but women are the wives and the mothers. That I've watched an interview. He was being interviewed, and sort of sounded quite good in a way, because he was going, women shouldn't have to pay for anything. But it's like, and the people that were interviewing him were saying, well, maybe not the first date or the second date, but what about third, fourth date? And they say, oh no, let me pay for this. And he's like, no. But because he'd want to be in control. But the trouble is, paying for everything sounds great, but it's a form of control, isn't it, over women? So he did have these very traditional views, which is fine if people want to do it. I think I've said in other videos, if people want to live a traditional life like that, be a trad wife, as they call it now, that's perfectly fine. But if somebody doesn't and they want to pursue a career, and then they should be allowed to do that as well. So freedom of choice, that's the American way, isn't it? Freedom. So you should be free to be a trad wife if you want to, or to be a career woman if you want to. You shouldn't have to be, the housewife if that's not what you want. Another thing that was quite ironic, because of course there's a lot made of the American Constitution, isn't it? I think the Constitution, to be honest, is the root of a lot of problems in America, because it's like it's this enshrined, everything's enshrined. You can't change this Constitution. The free speech, of course, very important, and then the right to bear arms. Yep, that's very important. But, there are ways of controlling, we're talking, because another part of the Constitution, of course, is the right to life. So, anti-abortionists will use that as, as a reason to ban abortion. But, people have a right to live. And the Second Amendment affects that, because of all these people wandering around with guns, and they've got the freedom to wander around with guns. And unfortunately, not everybody is responsible enough to have guns. People are killing people, like this that has happened to Charlie. So, there needs to be some debate about it, and they just won't do it. It's too resistant about it. Again, black and white. Life is not black and white. That's one thing you realise as you get older. I think when you're young, you think, oh yeah, this is this and that's that. And, and as you get older, you realise that actually nothing is clear cut. It just isn't. Life is difficult, and there's a lot of choices to make all the time. Sometimes you make the right choices, sometimes you make the wrong choices. But everything should be open to debate, I think. Anyway, that surely debate. I wish debate was in the bloody Constitution, and then they would do it, wouldn't they? Oh God, I've lost it again. Oh, sharing. I'm not sharing it, am I? There you go.
We are indebted to law enforcement across the state who's worked seamlessly together, local law enforcement, state law enforcement, and our federal partners with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're grateful for everyone who worked together in such a short amount of time to find this person and to bring justice. I want to thank the public who has been so engaged, reviewing videos, helping us with sending in tips, and helping us get to this point. I want to thank the family members of Tyler Robinson who did the right thing in this case and were able to bring him into to law enforcement as well. I especially want to thank the family of Charlie Kirk, Erica, Charlie's parents, his children. I want us to be thinking of them as we bring justice in this case. They will be involved in that justice. We will be working very closely with them as we move through this process as well. This is a very sad day for our country, a terrible day for the state of Utah, but I'm grateful that at this moment we have an opportunity to bring closure to this very dark chapter in our nation's history. With that, I will now turn the microphone over to the director of the FBI, Kash Patel.
Oh my God. Now.
Thank you, Governor.
This guy he's just not got a clue, has he? You know, don't forget, twice this guy came out and said they had a suspect in custody when they didn't have a suspect in custody. And one thing I would say, if you look at this governor's face here, you know, I'm quite good at reading people's reactions. To me, it just seems like, yeah, he's got to respect him because that's, you know, what he's got to do. But you don't feel like he does respect him. That's just the feeling I get of him. This guy is, you know, I don't know. This is the director of the FBI, and it doesn't feel that there's something. It just doesn't fit. He doesn't inspire you with confidence, does he?
This is what happens when you let good cops be cops. The FBI and our partners are proud to stand here today together to bring justice to the family of Charlie Kirk and honor his memory. I want to express my deep gratitude to President Trump, the Vice President, and the entire White House who have been so incredibly supportive with both resources and just personally to the FBI as a team. They had our backs the entire way, and I just want to express my gratitude for giving us the resources we need to operate in this space to bring this sort of justice at this sort of speed. In 33 hours, we have made historic progress for Charlie. Governor Cox, our partnership has been absolutely incredible these last few days. Our partnership will endure. Your state and local partners, your sheriffs, your DPS community has been unbelievably impressive in the hardest of times. And a case like this cannot be solved, cannot be brought without partnering with your state and local authorities. The FBI has
You see, look at this guy's face, this governor. He's trying to stay impassive, but to me, honestly, I tell you, because you know, I am an empath and I can tell he's thinking inside, what a dick. What a dick. I mean, he looks like a dick, doesn't he? And he's thinking inside, oh, for God's sake. But he would never say it because he's polite, you know, but that's just like, you can just see what he's thinking.
A certain role to play, and we will play that role, and we will lead out for the federal government. But Governor Cox, we are so grateful for your state partnership that led out on this investigation. A little bit of the timeline. Charlie was shot at 12:23 p.m. on Wednesday. The first FBI agents arrived on scene in 16 minutes with chiefs of police at 12:39 and secured the scene. The FBI immediately launched fixed-wing assets. We utilized these assets to transport personnel, specialty technicians, hostage rescue teams. We also utilize these assets to go back and forth from the East Coast and here in Utah to transport forensic evidence and other evidence that will be analyzed and is being analyzed at our FBI laboratories in Quantico and other laboratories, including the ATF. At my direction, the FBI released the first set of FBI photos of the suspect at 10 a.m. local time on 9/11. Then, shortly thereafter, the FBI reward of $100,000 was released at 10:45 a.m. local. Myself and Deputy Director Bongino arrived on the scene at approximately 5:30 p.m. on 9/11. The governor led a press conference last night at approximately 8 p.m., where at my direction, the FBI released a never-before-seen video of the suspect. We also released new images to the public of the suspect. And just last night, the suspect was taken into custody at 10 p.m. local time. In less than 36 hours, 33 to be precise, thanks to the full weight of the federal government and leading out with the partners here in the state of Utah and Governor Cox, the suspect was apprehended in a historic time period. And I want to highlight what Governor Cox said. This would not have been possible without you, the media, and you, the public. That's why we went so public, so fast, and we're so transparent, and we're committed to that transparency. The crime scene, just a little bit there. It is a large crime scene. State and local authorities, along with federal authorities, process that crime scene quickly. And I even had the ability to walk through that crime scene and walk through the steps the suspect took to learn more about what was needed and what resources we needed to bear to create a full picture for the FBI and leadership back in Washington. Furthermore, thankfully to state and local partners, forensic evidence has been seized and continues to be garnered. Forensic evidence has already been evaluated at FBI laboratories in Quantico and state and local authorities here. We will continue to process evidence as we see it, as we collect it, and we will continue to deliver it to Governor Cox and his team. Last night, we had a total of approximately 7,000 interviews, 7,000 leads. As of this morning, thanks to your great work, we have over 11,000 leads that were called in to the FBI. And we are running out every single lead that we can. Every one of those leads will be run out.
11,000 leads. Look at his face. What do they need to run those leads out for? They've got him. He's been arrested. So what they're going to run out 11,000 leads? Why don't they go and catch some other criminals as well? You know, why are they going to run out 11,000 leads in a case where somebody's already been apprehended? You can see the disbelief on his face. It's like ridiculous.
The arrest is a testament to the dedication of good law enforcement
Whatever.
being great and partnership.
No, it isn't. The arrest is a testament to the fact that his father did the right thing.
In law enforcement, which I've tried to highlight as my tenure as the director of the FBI. There is no better relationship for law enforcement than the FBI to partner with state and local authorities, and you've seen it here in these last few days. The FBI Salt Lake field office, along with our offices in LA, Phoenix, Denver, San Antonio, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, our headquarters component in Quantico, all participate in the FBI. I want to express my deep gratitude to the employees of the FBI, the men and women, the evidence response team tacticians, the special operators.
That's the first thing that is said that I think, you should look at the way he's looking at him as well. I mean, is it my imagination or this guy looks like he's as high as a kite as well? There's just something not right about this guy, is there? Look, he's giving him the side eye. He just looks like he wishes he was somewhere else. He looks like he wishes he was someone else. Nobody's looking at him with any respect, are they?
The agents, the support staff, you have done monumental work in historic time when the public, who had a right to demand such an expeditious solving of an investigation, the FBI answered that call diligently, critically important to our nation, and we delivered. And I'm proud to be their leader, and I'm proud to be the director of the FBI.
Yeah, you should be proud, because how you're the director of the FBI, I have no idea. I tell you, America, you know, if you're watching and you're American, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or whatever you are, this guy should not be the leader of the FBI. You know, he's not putting out a good face to the world. If you want a good reputation.
This is a very much an ongoing investigation, as the governor said, and we will continue to work with state and local authorities to develop the investigation, to provide them the evidence they need for their ongoing prosecutions. And we will be here to answer every call they absolutely have, as long as it takes, for as long as we need to find and apprehend whatever suspects were involved in this crime. Lastly, to my friend Charlie Kirk.
I'll listen to this.
Rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
Now, is Kash Patel a Muslim? I mean, not that it matters to me. I couldn't give a shit if he's a Muslim or whatever he is. I don't know much about him, to be honest. What does he mean? I'll see you in Valhalla. What sort of a thing is that to say? So let's have a little look. So he was born February the 25th, 1960. Well, he looks good for his age, I'll say that. Oh, no, 1980. I was going to say, bloody hell, he looks good for his age. So he's an American lawyer and former federal prosecutor, serving since 2025 as the director of the Federal Bureau. He studied criminal justice. This is Wikipedia. He studied criminal justice and history at the University of Richmond and graduated and began working as a public defender. Blah, de, blah, de, blah, de, blah. So he was with, so he began, says he worked in the counter-terrorism division in 2014. There's a lot of, I'm not going to read the whole thing out. So he's been on podcasts, published a children's book. He was questioned by the FBI about his involvement in Trump's records. He founded the Cash Foundation, a charity to help participants in the January the 6th Capitol attack, which Donald Trump, did nothing to subdue, did he? He has promoted several conspiracy theories about the deep state, false claims of fraud in the 2020 presidential election, QAnon, COVID-19 vaccines, and the January the 6th Capitol attack. So where's his experience with the FBI then? Hasn't got any experience, but there you go. This is Trump's world. We're all just living in it. He's like, yeah, he seems a typical sort of friend of Trump, really, doesn't he? Yeah, I can't see where he got the experience from to become director of the FBI.
Thank you, and good morning. I would just like to take a few minutes as the sheriff to express my gratitude for everybody who has played a part in this investigation.
Yeah, exactly. I know Valhalla is. So what does he mean? I'll see you in Valhalla. If he's a Muslim, he's not going to Valhalla, is he? And Charlie's not going to Valhalla. Charlie's going to heaven because Charlie was a committed Christian. Religion was everything to Charlie. So what a weird thing to say. I'll see you in Valhalla. That's where the Vikings went. The warriors and everything. What's he talking about? He's a nutter. Typical Trump friend.
As you know, it's been a complicated, and a very, very fast-paced investigation. You're looking at people standing up here who are running on, if they got an hour's sleep in the last couple of days, they're probably lucky. It has been very taxing. It has been so impressive, speaking on behalf of the local law enforcement, to see the cooperation that we've seen in this type of case. Across the state, sheriffs, chiefs, our state partners have stepped up and have come to the call on anything that we needed. Our county chiefs have been phenomenal. Our Utah County Attorney, Jeff Gray, who's standing up here with us, has been phenomenal in leading us through this investigation. I would like to thank the federal government for their resources, their assets. Our local team here, our FBI team, has been extraordinary in helping us work through this and bring this person to justice. Most of all, I would like to thank the public, and specifically, I would like to thank the public who turned to prayers and who turned to positiveness for us. I would like to thank them on behalf of the law enforcement community, because we needed those prayers. That's what we needed to get through this. We needed your support, and you gave it to us. We needed your patience, and you gave it to us. And I would like to thank you for the Kirk family, because that's what they need, is your support and your prayers, and that will get us through all of this. So thank you, everybody, for everybody that have stepped up. We've had such a phenomenal response to this. Thank you.
I also want to give a special thanks to the Attorney General and the Department of Justice. Their unwavering support and their commitment to justice is shown true here. And without AG Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and the resources they brought to bear, we would not have been able to complete our mission. And I just want to say special thanks. It's an honor to be a part of the Department of Justice.
Thank you again to our incredible law enforcement team who has worked so hard. Sheriff, I got a solid 90 minutes last night, so I'm probably the most well-rested person up here. Ladies and gentlemen, I get the microphone, so I hope you'll permit me a moment just to share a few more thoughts about where we are and how we got here, and maybe a little bit of where we go from here. I don't want to get too preachy, but I think it's important that we, with eyes wide open, understand what's.
Now, what this Governor Spence now says, this is what Donald Trump should have said, but he didn't. So to me, this is what President should say, trying to bring calm. Oh, God, look at Cash in the back there. He's as high as a kite, that guy. I'm sorry, he is.
Happening in our country today. I've heard people say, well, why are we so invested in this? There's violence happening all across our country, and violence is tragic everywhere. And every life taken is a child of God who deserves our love and respect and dignity. This is certainly about the tragic death, political assassination of Charlie Kirk. But it is also much bigger than an attack on an individual. It is an attack on all of us. It is an attack on the American experiment. It is an attack on our ideals. This cuts to the very foundation of who we are, of who we have been, and who we could be in better times. Political violence is different than any other type of violence for lots of different reasons. One, because in the very act that Charlie championed of expression, that freedom of expression that is enshrined in our founding documents, in having his life taken in that very act, makes it more difficult for people to feel like they can share their ideas, that they can speak freely. We will never be able to solve all the other problems, including the violence problems that people are.
Everyone's terrified of saying what they think now because somebody might shoot them or stab them, or, you know, it would have been once like you would have a debate about things. I've had so many heated debates over the years, you know, when I was at university and studying politics and that. We were always debating about things and they were heated in the set, but it never came to a point where you think someone was going to stab you or shoot you or anything like that. They were debates. Now it's like you're frightened to open your mouth because people just jump down your throat.
Are worried about if we can't have a clash of ideas safely and securely, even especially those ideas with which you disagree. That's why this matters so much. Over the last 48 hours, I have been as angry as I have ever been, as sad as I have ever been. And it was, as anger pushed me to the brink, it was actually Charlie's words that pulled me back. I'd like to share some of those. And specifically right now, if I could.
Now, before we look at what he's going to say, I just want to read out to you what the president of the free world had to say. Okay, let's hear what the contrast between what I wish he was bloody president. The contrast between what this guy is about to say and what President Trump had to say. So President Trump, the glorious president, he said, so President Donald Trump on Thursday voiced concern for the country in the wake of the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk and said he wanted his supporters to respond with non-violence. First of all, what the hell does that even mean? Respond with non-violence. Okay. Why didn't he just say, don't respond? Don't respond. You know, it's a debate. Let's try and cool the flames. Respond with non-violence, whatever that means. And then he was asked if he's worried for his own safety in the wake of Wednesday's fatal shooting of Kirk as he left the White House for New York on Thursday afternoon. And he said, not really. I'm really concerned for our country. We have a great country. We have a radical left group of lunatics out there, just absolute lunatics. And we're going to get that problem solved. I'm only concerned for the country. So how is that not inciting? By saying we have a radical left group of lunatics out there. There's no radical right lunatics out there, is there? So let's have a look at the crimes that have been committed against Democrats within the last year that Donald Trump doesn't seem to think matter. So on June the 14th, a masked gunman, police say was disguised as a police officer, allegedly shot 2 Minnesota state legislators and their spouses in their homes. Democratic State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark, were killed along with their dog, and State Senator John Hoffman, a Democrat, and his wife Yvette were shot and wounded. So they weren't loony lefties doing that. Investigators arrested and charged Vance Luther Burter with the shootings and alleged he had a hit list with dozens of other targets, including other Democratic lawmakers, abortion providers, and pro-choice activists. He's been charged with state and federal crimes, including murder and animal cruelty. And good that they're charging him for the dog as well, because quite often, if people kill animals, it doesn't get recognised. And he has pleaded not guilty. So, following the Minnesota shooting, Trump called the incident absolutely terrible. However, he slammed Governor Tim Walz, a Democrat, and did not call him. He said, I think he's a terrible governor. I think he's a grossly incompetent person. Because, of course, Tim Walz ran for vice president with Kamala Harris in the election, didn't he? I may call him. I may call other people too, he said. Do you know, he's a horrible man. Anyway, so that's Tim Walz. So Trump continued to lambast the governor to the press. Why would I call him? I could call and say, hi, how you doing? The guy doesn't have a clue. He's a mess. I could be nice and call, but why waste time? Is that how the president of the United States should speak? You know, where's the gravitas? Where's the importance of his position? Don't slag people off. So apparently he did call Walz following the August 22nd shooting at a Catholic church in Minneapolis, where 2 children were killed and 21 others were wounded. Anyway, on April the 13th, the Pennsylvania governor's mansion was set on fire while Governor Josh Shapiro and his family were celebrating Passover. No one was seriously hurt, and the suspect, Cody Allen Balmer, turned himself in, according to police. But he allegedly told police he would have attacked Shapiro with the hammer if he had found him inside the residence. Trump was asked about the attack a day after and said the suspect was just a whack job. I don't know. So, and then the Nancy Pelosi thing. He made fun of Nancy Pelosi and her husband. All the right wing did when they were attacked inside their residence. You know, this is, you know, I just want to point it out. This is not true. What Trump has said, that these are loony lefties or something. We have a radical left group of lunatics out there. It's not only radical left lunatics. You've got a massive mental health issue. There's drugs. There's all those things. And all you're bothered about is deporting immigrants, Mr. Trump, and fanning the flames. So America needs a new president who's a bit more like this guy, you know, who's asking for calm, asking for unity. Look at Cash. He's like, he's high as a kite, this guy. He really is. Look at his eyes. I listen to. So, you know, I feel like that's sort of like a way of being nice about Trump in one way. Oh, you know, President Trump said to me, young people love Charlie. But now he's reminding us that a lot of young people hated Charlie. And I tell you, I know that from, you know, I didn't know anything about Charlie. But young people did. My son knew about him. He hasn't got the best reputation with all young people. Some young people loved him. Some young people thought he was a nasty piece of work. You know, that's how it is. And then notice how this guy got that in there. I feel like it's a little veiled criticism of Trump. Oh, I'm not sorry. I'm not sharing. Am I? Hang on, hang on. Hang on. I wasn't sharing, just for a change. Like, just watch while you're listening to this guy. Just watch Kash Patel's face. It looks like he's going to pass out. Oh, I'm not, still not bloody sharing.
And securely.
Ah.
Even especially those ideas with which you disagree. That's why this matters so much. Over the last 48 hours, I have been as angry as I have ever been, as sad as I have ever been. And it was, as anger pushed me to the brink, it was actually Charlie's words that pulled me back. I'd like to share some of those. And specifically right now, if I could, I need to talk to the young people in our state, in my state, and all across the country. As President Trump reminded me, he said, you know who really loved Charlie? The youths. And he's right. Young people loved Charlie, and young people hated Charlie. And Charlie went into those places anyway. And these are the words that have helped me. Charlie said, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. He said, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The only way out of the labyrinth of suffering is to forgive. Welcome without judgment, love without condition, forgive without limit. He said, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much. A few months ago, I referenced this last night, Charlie posted to social media, when things are moving very fast and people are losing their minds, it's important to stay grounded. Turn off your phone, read scripture, spend time with friends, and remember, internet fury is not real life. It's going to be okay. He again said, when you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to commit violence. He said, what we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have a reasonable agreement, where violence is not an option. Now, again, to my young friends out there, you are inheriting a country where politics feels like rage. It feels like rage is the only option. But through those words, we have a reminder that we can choose a different path. Your generation has an opportunity to build a culture that is very different than what we are suffering through right now. Not by pretending differences don't matter, but by embracing our differences and having those hard conversations. I think we need more moral clarity right now. I hear all the time that words are violence. Words are not violence. Violence is violence. And there is one person responsible for what happened here. And that person is now in custody and will be charged soon and will be held accountable. And yet all of us have an opportunity right now to do something different. I want to thank my fellow Utans. You know, this bad stuff happens. For 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us, that somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I had hoped for, just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here. And indeed, Utah is a special place. We lead the nation in charitable giving. We lead the nation in service every year. But it did happen here. And it was one of us. But I want you to look at how Utahns reacted the last 2 nights.
Is he falling asleep, this guy? He looked a couple of times like his eyes are closing and he's falling asleep.
There was no rioting. There was no looting. There were no cars set on fire. There's no violence. There were vigils and prayers and people coming together to share the humanity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is the answer to this. We can return violence with violence. We can return hate with hate. And that's the problem with political violence, is it metastasizes, because we can always point the finger at the other side. And at some point, we have to find an off-ramp, or it's going to get much, much worse. But see, these are choices that we can make. History will dictate if this is a turning point for our country. But every single one of us gets to choose right now if this is a turning point for us. We get to make decisions. We have our agency. And I desperately call on every American, Republican, Democrat, liberal, progressive, conservative, MAGA, all of us to please, please, please follow what Charlie taught me. I'll just conclude with with words I share often from a friend and author, Yuval Levin, who was asked if he was optimistic about our country, and he said, "I'm not optimistic." He said, "I hate optimism." Like, that sounds bad. But he said, optimism is a vice. It's this idea that good things are just going to happen. And he said, in the history of the world, good things have never just happened. He says, I'm not optimistic, but I am hopeful. And hope is the virtue that sits between the vices of optimism and pessimism. Hope is the idea that good things are going to happen because we can make them so. I still believe in our country. And I know Charlie Kirk believed in our country. I still believe that there is more good among us than evil. And I still believe that we can change the course of history. I'm hopeful because Americans can make it so. Ladies and gentlemen, we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Now, there were questions after that, but to be honest, you can never hear the questions, can you?
Well, for just about 2 days, he was undeniably the most wanted man in.
You can never hear the questions, can you? Though, of course, you can hear the answers, but it doesn't see the answer. They don't seem to have played on that. But yeah, I'm not impressed with Cash or whatever his name is. I'm not impressed with him at all. I mean, he may have been tired, you know, but he looked like, I feel tired now. Do I look stoned now? Probably. I'm definitely not stoned. But yeah, maybe he was tired and, you know, I don't know. But no, I'm not impressed with him. I don't feel like he inspires any confidence. I don't feel like should be in the position that he's in. But anyway, he is. And there you go. That's the reality we've got to deal with. So I think where America is now, it'd be interesting to see what happens. I think they've got to get rid of Trump. That's the first thing they've got to do. Get somebody decent in as president. I don't care if they're Republican. I don't care if they're Democrat or what they are. They just need to be better than Donald Trump and more, you know, try and calm things down. He started a lot of this aggression. If it wasn't for Donald Trump, Charlie probably would never have been shot. He started a lot of this. Trump started it, you know, with the insurrection, not condemning the insurrection. He's pardoned all those people that went and sort of attacked the White House and that. You know, he is a terrible president. As you know, Americans, he came in, he said he was going to do this, that, and the other. He's done none of it, except just, you know, used immigrants as scapegoats for all the other things that he's not doing. You know, the economy's not getting better. Nothing's getting better in America. Nothing. What's getting better? Oh, yeah, he's, you know, and then he released that social media post saying nothing smells better than getting rid of immigrants in the morning or some. So it was like a skit on Apocalypse Now. You know, that's the president that you've got there in America at the moment. If you're American, you're watching this and you're a Trump supporter, I'm sorry, but your country will never get the recognition that it deserves as long as Trump is the president. And, you know, I'll be happy to see what is Trump doing that is positive. Nothing. What is he doing to stop the violence? What is he doing for the average American on the street or whatever? How do you feel better? Do you feel like you've got more money in your pocket since he's come into power? Do you feel like life's got better? No, it's not. So it's not got better. Anyway. Yeah, remember him saying, David, oh, yeah, if I get into power, you know, the war in Ukraine, it'll be over in 2 days or whatever, didn't he? That's all the thing. It's rubbish. He's in Netanyahu's pocket as well. You know, he's run by, you know, Netanyahu is a monster. He's a bigger monster than Putin is. And Donald Trump's cozying up to him all the time. So, anyway. You know, he hasn't come through with anything that he said he would do, except being horrible. You see, the immigrants, they're easy prey, aren't they? They're easy prey. It's easy to whip people up against immigrants. We see that in Britain as well. Blame everything on the immigrants. It's all the immigrants' fault. It's not the immigrants' fault. If the immigrants weren't there, you'd still be living in a shit country because, you know, you look up at what's going on, all these lords and dames and this Lord Mandelson now. How did Peter Mandelson become a lord? He was always a dodgy character. I'm old enough to remember that. I was surprised when he was made ambassador to the US. Well, he's got a good relationship with Donald Trump because his mate's through Epstein, you know, and now, of course, that's all coming out. It's all going to go pear-shaped sooner or later. You know, and all the, you know, in America, they're like, oh, you know, protect our children. And in the UK, protect our children. But it's not only the immigrants you have to protect the children from. You know, it's the lords and the people. Peter Mandelson's he's never been a good person. He's a good politician. He's a very good politician, but he is not a nice person. And there's always been rumours around him. I remember that when I was in my 20s years ago. Peter Mandelson, when he was like Tony Blair's advisor and that, there was always rumours swirling around him. They called him the Prince of Darkness, didn't they? He was the Lord of Darkness then. Now he's a genuine Lord. And off he went, you know, given this prestigious job. You know, at the end of the day, he's still in the government. He's just been taken, that title's been taken off him. I mean, Keir Starmer, you know, that was a terrible error of judgment, making Peter Mandelson, bringing him back into government. It's a terrible error of judgment. I don't know if I can forgive him for that. I just don't understand why he did it. He can't be that thick, can he, that he didn't know? I mean, he's been in politics for long enough. Though, to be fair, he hasn't been in politics that long because he was director of public prosecutions, wasn't he? But come on, he knows about Peter Mandelson. Anyone who remembers back, who's old enough, would know about Peter Mandelson. There were vile rumours circulating about him. You know, that he was a PDF, that he was this, that and the other. And there were rumours, but, you know, now that we know about him and Epstein, and they're saying that he was his best friend and all that, it makes you think, is there more going on there? I mean, I don't know if Epstein was bisexual or not. There's Peter, of course, is gay, he's married to a man, which is fine. You know, just because someone's gay doesn't mean they're a bad person, but he is a bad person. You know, just because someone's gay don't mean they're a good person either. You know, he's always been a bad person, or there's always been rumours about him being a bad person. But he is a very good politician. Very good. The real Machiavellian politician. He can get things done. He's a fixer. You know, and he will have, you know, Keir Starmer will miss him with the relationship with Trump, but hopefully won't have to have a relationship with Trump for too long. Can't they get rid of him? I know, exactly. Yeah, it was terrible what he's done. Terrible to make Peter But I remember sort of hearing about it thinking, oh God, Peter Mandelson. You know, what and how, yeah, well, everyone's a lord nowadays, Fluffy. You notice it, if I'm watching Sky, go on, today's guest is Lord such and such, and I think, what? Another lord? Or Dame such and such. They're all lords or dames. You know, just need to abolish all that shit. It's like, it's grace and favour. That's how they back. Look what they did with David Cameron. You know, just brought him back, made him a lord because he wasn't an elected MP. Charlie Boy just phoned him up and said, "Hi, David, you're a lord." So because he was a lord, then he could be made Secretary of State. That was under Rishi Sunak, wasn't it? Just so corrupt, all of it. So now David Cameron, for the rest of his life, he will be a lord. What has he done to become a lord? He ruined Britain. Didn't he? He had the Brexit referendum, and then as soon as that was over, he just buggered off, left us to all the turmoil that happened after Brexit. You know, with this sort of, you know, Theresa May and bloody nutcase, what's her name, Liz Truss, and I lose track of him, Rishi Sunak. You know, it was one prime minister after another because of Lord Cameron, but he's still a lord. You know, Britain's foundering and people can't afford to put food on the table or pay their bills, but David Cameron will always be a lord for the rest of his life. God, nearly everyone's a lord or a lady or you know, just what I just watched the, you know, the interviews with people, and it's always Lord this and Peer. You just think, what? How did that happen? And Lord Mandelson is a prime example. How's he become a lord? What did he do? He was actually sort of discredited, and now he's a lord. Come on. Anyway, that's, oh, and don't forget, and my pet bugbear, of course, is we've got this Russian lord. We've got Lord Lebedev, you know, who Boris Johnson made a lord because he's a mate of his, gave him a load of money. This Russian millionaire wanted to be a lord. And how can somebody please tell me, honest God, I just feel like I really am in the Twilight Zone when I talk about Lord Lebedev. This is the British House of Lords. Even if you don't, you know, if you agree with the House of Lords as a principle, which I don't, but okay, but it's the British House of Lords, and you've got a Russian who's a lord because he bought his title from Boris Johnson, and nobody's up in arms about that. Why aren't people protesting about that instead of protesting about immigrants? You know, protest about what's going on above you. You know, the corruption in British society, which will always remain as long as you've got a royal family, because that's where it starts. It's, you know, the royal. I've got, I'm going off on it. I'm not going to go into that. I'm supposed to be talking about this. I'm not going to go into that. You just think Charlie Boy and Shamilla, you know, they're the root of everything that's wrong with Britain. And one day people will realise it. Because, of course, Charlie Boy, he's got associations with Epstein as well. You know, they all loved Epstein, the royal family, didn't they? They loved him. You know, started with Prince Andrew, who introduced him to everybody. And that was it. He was everybody's mate. You know, don't forget, and Jimmy Savile, all those people. You know, it's rotten at the top. That's the problem with Britain. It's rotten at the top, and as long as it's rotten at the top, it'll be rotten all the way through, because it's the top that starts at the top, trickles down to everybody else. Anyway, I know I'm waffling. Oh dear. You know, there's something about politics, isn't there? In something about politics and the royal family. It's like, don't matter what you do wrong, you just come back in another guise. You know, they've tried to bring Andrew back, haven't they, a million times? They keep trying to bring him back, and but they, you know, they can't. But they keep trying to. You know, if that was you or I, and we'd been sort of associated with something like that, same with Mandelson or anybody else, keep getting sacked. You wouldn't be able to come back, would you? But that's what they do. There'd be more later. They keep it. When they say, oh, such and such has resigned, they're still there in the House of Commons or the House of Lords or whatever. They've resigned from that position, but they're still there. They're still picking up their wages, or like in the House of Lords, they get paid for each day they attend, don't they? And they get their expenses and this, that, and the other. And some people, like Alan Sugar. Now, Alan Sugar, you could think, well, you know, I don't agree with a lot of his views, but he's a self-made man. He's British. He got there, you know, on his own merit. He deserves to be a lord. He doesn't pick up his lord's salary. He doesn't pick it up. They don't need it. Most of them in there don't need it, but they still pick it up, most of them. I don't think Lebedev, to be fair, picks up his salary. He just wants to be a lord. He just wants to swan around in Russia saying, I'm Lord Lebedev. You know, like, get on your knees. He's like, you know. So there's some who want it for the kudos, like Lebedev. Then there's others, they take the money anyway, even though they're millionaires. Boris Johnson's brother, Boris Johnson made him a lord. He tried to make his father a lord. He's made his illegitimate daughter a lord, or not a lord, what's she, a dame or duchess or whatever, I don't know. Whatever, that young girl, you know. Why is nobody protesting about all that? I just don't understand why people protest about things. It's divide and rule, isn't it? It's a deliberate thing. Pit people against each other, and then they won't look up at what's actually happening. That, you know, anyway, that's what I think. Yeah, Michelle Moan, David. She's a lady. She's a lady. She's been made a lady as well. So, you know, all these people that are, you know, bad people, they're, you know, having a great time. And then, you know, the immigrants, I'm sorry, most immigrants, probably 90% of them are good people. You will get some that are bad, of course. That's how life is, and they get blamed for everything. They get blamed for being put in hotels, but they didn't put themselves in a hotel. They didn't get off the boat and say, oh, where's the hotel? You know, the government, the Tory government, put them in hotels. They shouldn't be in hotels. You know, there must be another way of housing them. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is it wasn't the immigrants who put themselves in hotels. They didn't have a choice, did they? You know, they didn't choose it. You know, they didn't sort of come to Britain and say, all right, I want to go in this hotel. They were just put in there, you know, by the government, by the Tory government. Anyway. So, I don't know how I ended up talking about all that when we were talking about Charlie Kirk and the shooter, but I'm going now. So I'll see you soon, very soon in the next video. And until then, as always, night, night. And may your God, as always, go with you. Bye. Oh, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.